It was a great waking up situation for me.
It's said that it wasn't only the drugs, but you had like almost lethal bouts with depression as well.
Yeah. It was altogether just an horrendous period. And I can't say all the times in Berlin were good either. They weren't. It really was a therapy thing, you know. And I was not aware that help could be gotten. I mean, I had no idea about all that stuff. In those days, things like 12-step programs didn't exist in my world, you know. And I was white-knuckling with them tremendously on my own.
And yet, a lot of people, including our interviewer Osama here, thinks that Low is your best work ever. Do you think you were taken to the extreme there?
I think it was a very valuable work. I think. I don't know whether you realise how much hostility there was towards the work at the time. I mean, it pretty much derided everyone. I mean, it was thought of as being, everything that my work often falls under. It was pretentious and arty and really had no bearing, because punk was riding high at the time. And Low was the really antithesis of anything that was coming from the punk movement. But Brian and I were very aware of that, and that's why we were doing it, I think. It wasn't necessarily an antidote, but it was again part of the idea that music or anything is pluralistic, that there's always a B-side to every A.
And I guess like so many other things you've done, it could never be repeated. It was like just a flash that happened and you have to record it.
Absolutely, yeah. It was very much of its time. It really is. But the grand thing about it is that it does seem to have some kind of timeless quality. I mean, it still feels a very personal piece of work. I'm very proud of it. And I think one has only made one great album in his career. That's really quite enough for me. I think I've made more, but that one in particular, I know how important it was, and I'm very proud to have been involved in it. And then when 3 years ago Philip Glass took it and made it his first symphony, that for me was like I thought that was an incredible, flattering, morale-boosting thing.
Vindication.
Yeah, I changed music a bit. You know, I actually did push it. I did change it a bit. And he's now done the Heroes album, so I'm really chuffed. I'm doubly chuffed now.
That was a seamless segue into the next song.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
Which some say presaged the falling of the Berlin Wall.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Yes, I knew it was happening, and I had this dream. You see, it all came to me in a flash.
The architect of the fall of communism.
Absolutely.
Sits here before me.
Yes, it was all here.
Well, I
was in a beer cellar one night.
There was a bit of an argument downstairs about this line about we could be heroes just for one day, and they seem to think there was more than a hint of cynicism involved in that sentiment. Although I thought you were being.
I think not. I think, frankly, it was flowing with probably even an over-romanticized idea of what Berlin represented. I mean, I was very taken with Berlin. Because I knew it was some kind of psychological salvation for me. I don't know what, all these things that colluded to create this place for me to be in, but I knew good things were coming psychologically out of it for me, that I was starting to find myself in that. And I did have this vague notion that, I guess for me, you know, Berlin itself represented some kind of deranged landscape, and that this couple that I created in the hero song was really my sanity sort of coming through just for one day even. But it was, for me, it really was a glimmer of hope song, and I guess it was. I guess I was referring to my own condition, and you know, sort of it was again an allegorical thing. You know, but so often that's what I do tend to do. I'll narrate it. It'll be a kind of a little. I can't do straightforward anecdotal things. I think it's going to create a little vignette out of maybe a feeling that I have when it comes to life and a landscape of characters. But often that will represent the state of mind that I'm going through.
But it's a song about, I guess, a glimmer of hope within very tragic.
Yeah, and for me, I mean, I can project that onto myself quite easily, and it would make a lot of sense. It was how I was feeling, that you know things were going to be okay. I was going to drag myself out. This quagmire, this abyss I was slipping into.
So I guess in a way that it's become sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you have eventually embraced a lifestyle that's
Yes.
very normal, that's
Yeah.
I guess very romantic in the most conventional terms.
Yes.
So I mean,
Yeah.
you know, the changes
Yes.
that happen over, I don't know how
Succubate. That's what I am. Succubate. I fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker.
So it I guess, like I said, it was a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
okay. 1980, Scary Monsters, Ashes
Yeah.
to Ashes,
Yeah.
which look back on Space Odyssey.
I mean, again, so
Mhm.
do we suggest I can get into this stuff. This is great.
You're eating it up.
Well, so what happened here then? Well, yeah, I mean, you know, obviously one could say that I'd left Burma by that time. I was back in New York as it happened. I was doing the Elephant Man, who was a lot saner than I was, even though he was physically really fucked up. But I think that theatre piece was something that was synchronistic in terms of I was writing in this particular thing about sort of exercising the scary monsters and all that. So Ashes to Ashes could be a sort of what's it called these days? A closure. I love that word, don't you? Closure. Sort of a closure of some kind.
Well, one thing we have to clear
That
up.
word sort of covers everything. It's such a great word.
See, I'm glad you brought that word up because we didn't really bring up the subject of closure in terms of your relationship with drugs.
Yeah.
And was your
I'd like to say that was it. It did straggle on into the 80s a bit, but not with any of the vehemence of the 70s. I mean, it was sort of positively lightweight, and just for social use.
Yeah, of course. Was there a turning point from you? Did there come up?
Yeah, there really was for me. Yeah, it would kick in around 87 was a major turning point for me.
87.
Yeah,
I mean that was
major turning point.
10 years after Berlin.
Oh yeah. Although there was a real in the 80s, I think the early 80s, 1980, when I did the Scary Monsters thing, there really was a realization that the characterization thing for me was very bad at that time. That it was something that I should, and I think working through Let's Dance in that period, the early 80s, I was really trying to find who I was in relation to my songs and to my audience and to the art that I was making. But then I came with a vengeance into 87 and thought, I know what I am. I know who I am. And from that point onwards, things became very, very positive. I've got very positive.
So what was the turning point in 87? And we're getting ahead of ourselves, but what happened?
Yeah, I think it was a realization that in my rather vague drifting through the early 80s, sort of knowing that I wasn't that whole drug casualty thing, that I didn't want that in my life, and that I wanted something, but I didn't know what it was. I thought maybe it was I should live up to my audience's expectations. And so I started playing a lot of hits and really pandering to what they thought maybe I should be. And kind of almost letting them tell me who I was. And it was in around 87 that I really thought, I don't like doing this. I don't like playing bloody Let's Dance and Gin and all that. Something's got to really change. And that's when I sort of realised that what I really enjoyed doing was experimenting with music, but I didn't like experimenting with myself. And when the two, it's like, well, firstly, it's like the Piranha Brothers in Monty Python. They have these various systems they think of creating a way of, a kind of an extortion scheme that they develop, that they threaten the shop owner that if he pays them money, they'll break his shop up, and then that doesn't work. So they think, right, if you don't pay us money, we won't break your shop up. Then there comes a plan 3. If you don't pay us money, we'll break your shop up. It's sort of, I almost, you see what I mean? I almost went through that process and eventually got the right bits together and thought, that's what I need to do. Do the experimental music, but don't do the drugs. That's it. And it's sort of, it seems an easy and quite a, natural decision to make, but it does take a long time to get there when you've got a lot of damage.
Absolutely. Well, he had assumed that this Ashes to Ashes was just sort of cashing in your past. And
well, I guess it was to a certain extent, but it did leave me in limbo then. It's sort of, well, I've done that now. I've got to